You're tuned in to Around the Lens, the internet's only live streaming roundtable discussion podcast, featuring Zach Roberts, Ron Hamilton, Travis Keys, and your host, David J. Murphy. Hello and welcome to Around the Lens, episode 173. I'm your host, David J. Murphy. Joining me as always are my co-hosts, Zach Roberts and Ron Hamilton. Let's start with you, Zach. How you been, buddy?
I'm alive. I'm good.
I'm glad to hear that. I'd hate if you were dead, because that would be bad, especially if you were on the online. Also, I made a mistake. This is episode 172. I jumped the gun. Oh. We'll get it right one of these days. Only 172 episodes in, but we'll get this format down eventually.
Wait! I just realized we're way past syndication now.
Ooh,
100 episodes is when you can be syndicated.
I like it.
I mean that's for network television, not for podcasts. I don't know what that.
Well, you know, podcasts are becoming more mainstream, so I'm sure it's only a matter of time.
Oh, anyone who wants to syndicate this, come on.
Indeed. They're beating down our doors. It's just like the amount of Patreons we have coming to our Patreon page. Oh, great bringing that up, Dave. By the way, in case you didn't know, we have a Patreon page. So if you're interested in contributing, we actually posted a bunch of content on the Patreon page this past weekend. Zach, you posted something, and I posted a couple videos. So if you were a Patreon, you could get access to that stuff before everyone else. Eventually, it will get to the general public, But again, if you want it first and foremost, throw us a buck, throw us a bone on Patreon, and you can get access to all that fun stuff ahead of time. Ron, you're joining us from a new location. Every week you're at a new location. Where are you at right now?
Today we're in a state park.
Okay. Which
I don't
state
know
park?
The name. I don't know. State of Hawaii.
Near Falling Rocks, it seems, as well.
Near Falling Rocks, that's all I know. That's right.
Man, if a rock were to fall on you right now...
The viral nature of that.
Rocks above
Ron, can we make that happen? Can we need a viral hit for this show. Come on.
That would do it.
Take one for the team, damn it. Not that we're about making news here, we don't report the news about photojournalism. We don't make the news.
Indeed.
Sad.
Not yet. Give us time. All right. Well, we got a great show for you all tonight. We got the awesome Joel, make sure I'm saying this last name right, Auerbach?
That's it.
Joel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Oh, I started in photography back in the mid-'60s, a long time ago, with Hasselblads and old Canons that said Bell and Howell Canon on them, and worked out in Missouri a little bit and worked up with the Bangor Daily News all the way up on the Canadian border.
Ooh.
And
Bangor, Maine.
North of that, Holton, Maine.
Oh my gosh.
The last exit on I-95 North.
My only experience with Bangor is flying through it on my way to Iraq when I was deployed over there.
My only experience with Bangor, Maine was having to drive Buddy Miles there to catch a plane once.
Okay.
And worked in the printing industry, got out of photography for a while. Then I got back into underwater photography, and about a little over 25 years ago got back into photojournalism, and right now I guess I'm lucky enough I have a number of private accounts, and I'm a stringer with Getty and Associated Press.
Cool.
So that's where I am today.
Nice.
Who treats you better, Getty or AP?
Not going there.
Yeah, that's a recipe.
Actually, I feel very fortunate to be able to be working with both, because not many people get to do that.
Do you? And again, say what you can say, but I mean, do they assign you? And if they don't assign you, how do you determine who gets what you shoot, or do you just choose it? You alternate.
Well, with AP, everything I shoot for them is assignment, and with Getty, most of the things I shoot are assignment. There are some events that I'll shoot on spec. For example, I just finished shooting the Florida polo season yesterday, which isn't a series of events that they would pay somebody to go out and shoot. but it's something I got interested in about a year ago. Found it to be a really great sport. So I've covered it for the last 2 polo seasons, which are about 3.5 months. And being able to push them through Getty, I've had a lot of sales in Europe and Argentina. So it's worked out good. I have learned what type of events I can earn enough money so that I don't need to have a day rate.
There you go.
I won't go to something that I'll get like a 22-cent sale for the day.
Yeah.
Neither would we.
I don't plan to.
Well, I never plan to either, but
Yeah,
sometimes I'll get a statement. It'll be like a 14-cent sale to China. So, yeah.
Sounds about right. What do you do if both your agencies assign you the same task or same shoot?
That's sort of never happened. I shoot most of my hockey with Getty, but I get occasional hockey games from AP. I get my NBA assignments from AP, and that's, right now they have 3 staffers here, so it's basically I get to do fill-in work with AP. And I guess a few weeks ago I got to shoot the Miami Open for AP. And there are a lot of events down here. I shoot all the Dolphin games, most of the college football games, all the University of Miami games. So, staying somewhat busy.
Okay, cool. Glad you don't have to make any kind of like Sophie's choice with regard to, your favorite child there,
Well,
favorite agency.
No, but once in a while I'll have like a conflict, and then it's basically whoever booked me first.
Well, I mean, in theory, and you tell me again how that works, but like, let's say both of them ask you to shoot the same event, right? Could you not just split your frames?
No.
Okay.
Absolutely
2 cameras?
not. One with somebody
one
else's
telephoto,
name
one
on
wide
it.
angle?
Yeah.
Right.
You get
No,
every other
doesn't
frame, and you get every even frame.
Just do 5 shutter bursts. It'd be fine.
Yeah. But
So
no, I guess
that's
that's a
mainly-
no-no.
No, that's mainly the sports, and then I'll get news assignments mainly from AP, like the Parkland, shooting last year. That was, for AP,
Yeah.
because I live, luckily or unluckily, I live 15 minutes from Parkland, so I was the first person up on site for that,
Yeah. Well,
and got the first picture out,
yeah.
which beat Reuters and Getty by an hour and a half,
Hmm.
which is what the business is all about.
Right. Well, since you brought it up, let's go ahead and go to that photo right now. Let me bring that up for those who are watching this on... those who are watching it online. Okay, sorry. I am working with a single camera setup here. All right, so we are looking at the photograph you shot from the Parkland shooting, or I'm sorry, the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School shooting. Happened on Ash Wednesday. This is a photograph, for those of you listening, that features, it looks like a grieving mother with a ash cross on her head and holding probably another grieving mother. So talk to us a little bit about this photo.
Well, I had shot a spring training game the night before I was up in my office doing my second edits. I had CNN on. I saw the news flash that there was a shooting up in Parkland. I immediately closed my computer, started walking down the stairs, and my phone rang. So I was basically my wife was actually giving me directions because I had no idea where the school was. And I followed about 15 emergency vehicles on the highway. I tucked in right behind the last one and just blew past all the traffic. Their vehicles were red and so was mine, so it looked like I fit in. And we went down the exit. They all got to make a left turn, and I got stopped. Which happened. So I just pulled up on the sidewalk over there. I had my camera already set up in the car next to me. got out of the car. I was walking towards the intersection, and I saw these two women. The redhead was actually on the ground, and the other woman was bending over her. And I took a few frames there, and then she picked her up, and that's the frame that I got there. And I was shooting with like a 1:400 lens, so I wasn't real close.
Right.
And walked back to my car. As soon as I had that frame, I basically walked back to my car. I had carry a hotspot with me, and I transmitted it up to New York. And from what I've been told, that ran in about 1,500 newspapers the next day, and it ran on all the, like, CNN, basically magazines. So, but it was a lucky shot. You know, you can't plan that. It was the first thing I saw, and snapped the pictures. And 2 days later, that redheaded woman was on CNN blasting me for taking her picture.
Right.
So I'm lucky I wasn't any closer. And AP actually did an article for the 1-year anniversary, and they had a photographer go to both of these people, and they had a reporter. And the two of these women who were friends before don't talk to each other anymore.
Oh, my gosh.
Oh, interesting.
Neither one of them lost a kid, but they didn't know that at that point.
Yeah. So let me ask you this then. You know, if I were to shoot this same thing, my instinct would be take the photograph, and then go up to the people and get their names for the caption information. But you didn't do that. You just transmitted the image as it was. Why not?
I called the head of the AP office in Miami. I said, do I need their names? And she said no.
Oh,
Yeah.
interesting.
Which was probably a good idea. If I went there, I probably would have gotten hit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, because that's the thing. It's like, you know, obviously, you know, you're photographing a very sensitive time. People are grieving. It's not easy for them. And probably the last thing they want to do is be photographed in their, you know, this time of sorrow. And then obviously, you know, give you their names. But
which is why I used a 1:400, not my 16:35.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, did you shoot anything else at this event, or were you just like, all right, got it in the bag and done?
No. After that, I went to. They'd set up a grieving center. I got sent over there, and then they had the candlelight vigil that night, I guess, or the next day, and I got relieved. I had covered that all day. I was at the hospital, covered the grieving center, and then 2 days later I covered the funeral of the football coach who was killed.
Yeah.
So 3 terrible days.
Yeah, absolutely. If your AP correspondent person had said, yeah, you need to get those captions, what would you have done?
I would have walked over and asked him, but the head of the AP office down here is smart enough to know that probably would not have been a good idea.
Right. Okay.
I mean, you know, it's like if you're out at a football game and you're taking pictures of people with the mascot, you're going to ask them their name and put it in the caption, but something like this wasn't really necessary.
Yeah.
I actually for at Charlottesville and other things, I've actually started leaning towards not even trying to get names on a lot of things of people reacting to violence, because the names immediately get into the dark corners of the internet. Yeah. And those are the people that end up getting harassed and attacked by people like Alex Jones and things like that. And so, you know, that I think it's honestly usually for the best that a lot of times the names aren't attached to some of these photos, that especially the ones that go viral like this image has. And so like I know that goes against a lot of journalistic sensibilities and everything like that. But for a lot of the people, like I know that people in photos that I've taken have gotten huge number of death threats, had to move out of town. They don't blame me. Like it's out of everyone's hands, and it's like the work is often the work will help get the word out, especially things like Parkland, where that has the documentation of it and the kids being so. I've covered the March for Our Lives a lot, and the kids being so just absolutely amazing has turned it into an entire movement, and so it's something larger than all of them and larger than any kind of one photo or at any moment. Yeah. But still, like, if it, I think I genuinely think it's for the best that sometimes these moments don't have names, because also then it just becomes a story about, well, these people didn't have any children in the, that died that day, so that photo can't be, it just ends up being these. I just see these massive circles, massive like things going down the drain when it comes to news stories. You saw that with John Moore's photo. When the story came out that kid wasn't separated, and it just became a whole thing. Oh, well, the whole story and everyone caring about the child migration crisis is all BS because of this stupid thing that doesn't really have to do with anything. But yeah,
the other thing is when you're shooting an event like Charlottesville, it's a little different than shooting what I had up here. The people aren't going to look up these people to give them death threats the way somebody is going to if they're protesting against a white supremacist group. Then you get the crazies going after them.
You would think that.
Maybe I'd be surprised.
You'd be very genuinely surprised. They almost every single kid that I've talked to, and I've interviewed at least 5 or 6 of them, and chatted with a bunch of other ones. Not even just the big names. They've all gotten death threats and some of them have to have security. Just because they showed up at a March for Our Lives protest or something like that, and these are like 16, 17-year-old kids.
Well, not to get political, but I guess that's the world we've been living in the last 2.5 years.
Oh, it most certainly is. No, it's the world. No, I'm very familiar with it. Believe me.
How does it feel to have your image featured on this list? The top 100 of 2018.
It was a big honor. On several lists, it was like one of the top 3 or 4 photos of the year. I know it was entered for Pulitzer, and I know it didn't win because a lot of the like Myanmar, a lot of the refugee, one of the refugee series won that, and the Fort Lauderdale Sun Sentinel won a Pulitzer for their coverage of Parkland. So there was basically no way that they were going to give a Pulitzer for the news coverage and also for a photograph. But I was just happy that it got entered, and I'm sure somebody there looked at it and said, "Oh, a nice photo."
Yeah, no, I mean, definitely.
I'm usually a sports person. I do some news, like I said, for AP, but my main bailiwick is sports, and the most exciting thing you'll get there is if somebody goes down on the football field injured and you get a picture of them being carted off. It's not exactly the same as a shooting.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but sports is probably the best aspect of photojournalism to be in, in terms of training and getting your eye and getting your reflexes as sharp as possible for when you do shoot something like this, because obviously, like you said, you rolled up, pulled out your camera, got the shot, bam, you had it, and you're off to
I think
off
that
to
was
the races.
I think that was like the 4th or 5th photo I shot.
Wow.
So
did you?
I think you're right about that. Because with sports you have to instantly be able to grab your camera and know what to shoot, and your settings have to be in the camera already, and you push the button.
No, absolutely. Yeah. What did you shoot this with? You said a 1 to 400, and what was the Canon?
Canon 1DX.
Okay. Great.
I'm using 4 1DXs right now.
Oh wow. Okay.
Well, that's tough on the shoulder.
No, you know what? I said I have a torn rotator cuff, and the only thing that's tough right now are night football games with the 400 2.8. I've been shooting all my day sports with the 1:400 with an extender on it,
Yeah.
with a 1.4 extender. So I'm basically shooting with a 140 to a 560, and so a running back, receiver, running back's running towards the end zone, and I'm sitting there shooting.
Yeah.
And as they get closer, I go to vertical, and everybody's putting their 400s down and trying to find their 70 to 200, and I'm getting all those intermediate photos that everyone else is missing.
Are you shooting with a? Are you able to shoot with a monopod on the at least on the side, or are they not?
Yeah,
I know that they were talking about removing those, and after that one guy got obliterated basically by a football player. But
I should have actually sent you the picture of me getting obliterated by Kenny Stills at the Dolphin game. I was crushed against the back end zone by Kenny Stills, and I think it was one of the Oakland Raider players. The two of them went into me. I should have sent you that photo, but no, I've gotten to the point. I just turned 70 2 weeks ago.
Oh, so happy birthday! Congratulations!
Oh, thank you. So I'm still able to work. So I go up and down the sideline a few times to make sure I get all those quarterback photos and stuff that you have to get. Yeah. And because I'm working for a company I do work at the Dolphin games for Dolphin Digest, and the only thing they're really interested in are the Dolphins. So then I have a stool in the end zone, so I'll sit down and I wait for them to come to me.
Oh, nice.
And I just walk to the other end after every quarter, which is better than going up and down and kneeling every play like I did until last year.
Wow. I was going to ask you if you'd ever gotten clobbered in the sidelines, because I saw a video on Reddit where there was this, I think it was soccer player slammed into a guy, had like his 400, 500 millimeter lens on. I was more feeling sorry for the lens than the guy, honestly, because that thing took a hard hit to the cement.
I've been hit a few times at NFL games back when Reggie Bush was playing. He decided that he wanted to run where I was out of bounds.
Yeah.
And this year with Kenny Stills, but I had a baseball glance right across the top of my head on a line drive. I never even saw it coming. God. Luckily, because it just like parted my hair.
Wow.
So those are my close calls.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And now we have Ron
back.
Underwater.
Well, not like underwater photography where you have to make sure you keep breathing while you're working.
Maybe a shark or two or something.
Yeah.
Well, I think you should keep breathing. Hot pro tip: always breathe while you work. All right. So listen.
Always.
Above land or underwater. Actually, since we have some questions from our guests or from our live viewers, I'll throw those at you. Justin Farisi asks, how much more stressful is underwater photography versus land?
I love doing underwater photography. I haven't taught, but I was a master instructor, and I really enjoy being underwater, although I haven't done it now for almost 15 years. There's just something about being weightless. The difference with underwater photography is if you're using lighting, you have to have assistants who know what they're doing and what you want to do, so that they can angle the lights in at the right angle. And again, the depth looks different. You've got the particulates in the water, which if you're using a light close to the camera, you're getting the scatter coming back at you. And again, I was shooting film. I never shot digital.
Yeah. Wow.
I was using an Nikonos.
Is that lights?
No, I was using Nikonos with Nikonos strobes.
Oh, wow.
The big unit.
Yeah, wow. And there he is, Ron, back joining us from a new location inside of his car.
It must have been a rock fall.
Yeah.
Cover.
I was on an anthill, and I had to move around, and I decided just go back to the car. I'll be safer than insects here.
One of my friends who lives in Maine just came back from Bonaire, and he took some fantastic underwater photos. He shoots a lot of sports up there, and he comes down and shoots spring training. I looked at his pictures, and I said, man, do I wish there was digital photography when I was working underwater.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty awesome. Yeah, no, absolutely. So you haven't done any underwater photography since, with a digital
No.
camera? Okay, wow.
No.
Okay.
And I don't know that I will.
Oh, come on. You're young, spry, 70 years old.
I'm sorry?
Sorry, Joel, are you open water, advanced open water? What's your certification?
Master instructor.
Ooh,
Oh,
wow.
there you go. Wow. Terrific.
I taught, I guess, 6 specialties.
Wow. Well, you got to get back in the water, man. You're a spry, young 70.
I do, as soon as I figure out how to make my shoulders work.
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
There's ways.
It's all part of the training to get back into shape.
And that's the good part about water. It helps support the gear too. The water, everything's weighs less in the water.
Larry Leventhal, another person watching right now, asked the question, is there any subject matter that you find to be most popular? And we can open this up to the whole panel, I guess, but I'll start with you, Joel. Is there a specific subject matter that you've seen to be most popular amongst, your agencies?
The agencies
Or
what
in
I
general?
enjoy?
Whatever you find to be most popular.
My most popular sport to shoot is ice hockey. That is the one that I enjoy the most. It's air conditioned inside, never rains.
Yeah.
How do you keep your eye on that little black puck the whole time? How do you?
Well,
track that?
you're shooting through the hole, and I'm lucky enough that I have strobes in the building. I have a set of 8 Speedotron 2401 SXs, so I'm shooting at f8, and all the people not on strobes are shooting at f2.8.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm getting some really nice stuff. I've been shooting. I guess my first hockey was the old Madison Square Garden in the mid '60s. The old garden, not the new one. And I have pictures like of Bobby Hull and his brother and all the Rangers from back then. But I like hockey. I like, some of the other ones are getting a little strenuous for me, like NFL and.
Yeah. I photographed hockey once. It was not allowed. I was kind of doing it covertly. I got in trouble for it, but basically I was at a hockey game, and I was with the 106 Rescue Wing, and they were actually rappelling down from the rafters into the ice. And so I was there to photograph them because, again, I want to give them some coverage. And then after, of course, the game played. And so I was thinking, well, I kind of already here. I got my camera gear. I just went down to where the photographers were, and I stuck my camera inside one of the holes and, shot a few photographs, thinking nothing of it. And then the guy who was, I guess, the PR, public information person, they were they scolded me afterwards, you were not supposed to do that. How dare you do that? Because, okay, sorry, I guess it's a big deal. But anyways, that's my one experience shooting hockey.
Yeah, I've been pretty lucky. I've only had one lens clipped by a puck. And it was the 1-400, and it only hit the very front ring.
Yeah.
So when I sent it into CPS, they just had to replace the front ring. Nothing else got damaged, but I'm more worried about sticks
clear
coming.
Filters?
No,
yeah, just the lens, yeah.
Yeah, just the lens. I worry more about sticks coming through the hole, or if I'm shooting people's glove, because they seem to know exactly where the holes are.
Right.
And when they're going to hit somebody, they grab the hole.
Oh my gosh.
With their other hand, to give them some balance.
Oh no. But you never broke a lens or a camera.
No, I've been lucky.
Okay. Good. Yeah. All right. Well, let's get on to our main first subject this evening. Apparently, in case you guys didn't know, this is one of the worst jobs in the world to be in, or at least in the United States. According to this article here, photographer was named one of the top 25 worst jobs in the United States. Obviously we've derided the state of photojournalism in this podcast that's about photojournalism, visual journalism. We've said, again, it's like the end times and all the other stuff. Of course, we talk about all the layoffs and whatnot. But, in terms of jobs, I've never really kind of considered it the worst job or a bad job to be a photographer, because I figured, yeah, photojournalism, that's tough. That's a passion career field for sure. But photographer, like, there's a lot of opportunities out there. I mean, obviously, you see it every day. Somebody goes out and buys a $1,000 DSLR kit, and now they've got to own a business on Facebook. Yeah. But again, but that goes to, again, the statistics here and the story here, which basically says that there's a 5.6% decline in the job industry. There's just, everybody has a cell phone. I thought it was funny that taxi driver is a worse job than a photographer. I believe that.
Enlisted military personnel is number 5. So
yeah, imagine if you were an enlisted photographer, man. Jeez.
So we're right. How many photographers are driving Uber on the side to make ends meet?
I know, right?
Yeah. We're right behind cab drivers.
Pretty much. Well, we're ahead of cab drivers, so we got that going for us. That's. What do you guys think of this? I think I'll throw it over to you, Joel. I mean, you had a pretty good quote before the show. Would you like to repeat that?
What was the quote?
Somebody comes up to you and says, "I want to be a photographer." What do you say?
Oh, don't.
That's because you don't want the competition, or because the career is just not where it's at or where it used to be? Because, I mean, you've been doing this longer than all of us, so.
I think that the field is getting to a point where, I'll go to an NCAA college game, and you can't even get to the sidelines sometimes. The sports information departments at some of these schools will hand out so many credentials, and then these people are just lining the side with their phones or iPads.
Oh my God.
And you say, "What are you doing?" "I'm shooting for the school's social media." Okay. And it's like, well, you know what? I'm going to get in front of you, and why don't you shoot over my shoulder because I'm working?
Yeah.
And you get these I'm sure you get these really dirty looks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you end up just pushing them out of the way, and then the SID comes to you after the game and says, "You pushed one of my photographers out of the way." I said, "Oh, I didn't know they were a photographer. They had their phone. I didn't see a camera."
Yeah.
It'd be funny if they come up to you and be like, "I don't know why you need that big lens. I just pinch and I just do my thing with the fingers, and I get really close, and it looks fine to me."
Well, the funny thing is, I was shooting a basketball tournament with Texas Tech back in December, and I'm sitting there, and the guy next to me is from Texas Tech, and I think I told you, Dave, I'm not the greatest computer nerd in the world. So during like these media timeouts, he's putting a cable to his camera. He had one DX also and into his phone, and I'm just watching him. And finally, I said, "What the hell are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm sending these to Texas." I said, "How are you doing that?" He said, "Oh, you get this cable from Apple. You just connect it. It downloads all your photos. I pick 3 or 4. I put them in the mail, and they're gone."
Yeah, that's the way it is.
It is.
I can do that with my Panasonic GH5. I can just access it via the app, do some imagery, get my pictures, and bam, I'm done.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I still, it's really changed since the days of film.
Yeah, a little bit.
I had somebody at an NFL game this year. One of the people in the stands behind me said, "So what do you like? You like shooting digital, or did you like shooting film?" And I said, "Well, I loved shooting film.
Yeah.
But if I ever shot 2,500 pictures in a day using film, it would be the last day I ever worked for that company."
Yeah. Good luck carrying all that bricks of film with you.
Yeah.
Zach,
but as far as it being one of the worst jobs, it's. I'm under the impression, the more and more of these pro events you go to, the less photographers you're seeing. The leagues are cutting back on the number of credentials. The teams are cutting back. And about 8, 9, 10 years ago, I said to somebody, and I was wrong. I said, "In 10 years, none of us are going to be here." And he said, "Why?" I said, "You know what? They're going to come out. They have the high-def cameras coming out. Somebody at the New York Times is going to sit back there. They're going to be able to scroll back with special software. They're not going to get our frame where the ball is this far away. They're going to get it when the ball is just touching his hand. They're going to push a button, and out's going to come the JPEG for their newspaper instantly." And I'm sure somebody's going to develop that if they haven't already.
I'm actually surprised that I always tell the story. Rocky Mountain News, before they went out of business, actually got rid of their photographers and handed every reporter a small HD camera, and that's what they were pulling the frames. They were pulling frames from, and obviously this is like, I don't know, what was that, early 2000s or mid 2000, like 2006 or 2005 or something, HD. So it was not that
not
good.
like today's quality.
Yeah, no, I mean, like you could pull from the 4K from my Nikon, you could pull with no problem a screenshot of the 4K video. I know that soccer is switching. I think at least with the next World Cup, it's going to be 8K. Yeah. They're going to be filming everything in, so they'll literally be able to cut into frames if that aren't not close enough to be able to show that video like live, and which is insane, and which is why I've always been surprised. One of the reasons I started doing video was because of that concern, because I thought, well, everyone's just going to be switching to video and everyone's just going to be pulling those frames out and using those for newspapers or using those for whatever, because you don't need, for web, you don't need that high quality
Well, man,
images.
They've been doing that since 1080p.
Well, I mean, they obviously do it. I've had a ton of video where they just pull frames out and things like that, and I've done that for news stories where I was shooting video and needed a still, but I didn't have a still. But
they're putting up a picture at 72 DPI. It almost doesn't matter what the original is.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, people who know, it matters too. The people who are taking the images, whether it be video or still, if it's just a headshot or something like that, it's not really that important. But action scenes and that sort of thing. I don't know, the way that I shoot most people shoot video, it's really difficult to get. You're not framing the same way that a still photographer necessarily would. I mean, especially you're not taking. We were joking about doing profile or a portrait or landscape before, and it was just like, you never will be able to have an image if you needed a profile image. No one's gonna take video unless you, I guess, I'll actually forget that, unless you're on a cell phone, and then of course you're doing it in profile. But yeah, so I mean, it's I'm sure that it's maybe diluted out of the things that has hurt our industry. I'm sure that it's hurt a little bit that they can just pull it from from video. But I think honestly, this, like you were saying before, the cell phone thing has been the bigger thing. Mm-hmm. Or was it the Chicago Tribune? I think it's the Tribune, not the Sun-Times, that fired its photo staff, and we're like, everybody just takes photos, and then they won the Stanley Cup. And they had that embarrassing, I don't know if you remember this, they had the embarrassing front cover newspaper photo, and it was this horrible looking, pixelated image of the cup from a distance. And then you have the Sun-Times, you have or I forget what the other paper was that was still around then. And like, there's these gorgeous photos of the cup and everybody, celebrating and that sort of thing. And then they won the World Series. And the same problem where it's just like, you have this guy from a distance and you're like, why didn't you just buy the AP photos and use those on the cover? But so, yeah.
We had somebody at a hockey game down here from one of the visiting cities. And the first two periods I usually shoot from ice level. And then we shoot pretty much near the red line at the bowl. We have a really nice setup in Sunrise at the BB&T Center, and this person came. He didn't go down and shoot it through a hole, and he shot the entire game from up at the top of the bowl with a 70-200.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking to myself, you traveled here from, I don't even remember what city it was, and this is what you're shooting.
I mean, just the angle alone would be atrocious. I mean, that's. But on the other hand, that's, what I guess probably experience takes you. I mean, that,
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Zach, what do you feel about being in one of the worst careers,
I mean, you go through the list. I've done it. So,
are you an Uber driver yet, or a Lyft driver?
I was a Lyft driver for a while, and literally being in upstate New York, it doesn't work. It doesn't. There's just too many people doing it.
Yeah.
Food server. I mean, just go through so many of these things. It's like, yeah, no, that's what you do. My thing is though that out of all, obviously that this doesn't factor in with all of these things, is that doesn't factor in job satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's the one thing, like, yeah, a water transportation worker makes, on average $20,000 more a year than we do.
Right.
And it's listed at number 21, but it doesn't get to do the cool things that we do. We don't get to, they don't get to fly over ice caps and photograph out of a window. They don't get to, meet presidential candidates and senators and see all the important moments, that, and get to the moment that you come back from somewhere, and everyone starts going, oh my God, so what was it really like when you were in that room, or what was it, and just the things that, make this job worthwhile. It sure as hell ain't the pay. And it's not the hours and it's not the, it's not the idea that in 5 years our profession will be a manageable one. But it's the fact that I get to do all of these things. I mean, it takes away all those things. It's like the advertisement. If it's like, you could almost use the advertisement for the Army or the Navy or whatever to be a photojournalist, outside of the, there's no guns, at least that we have guns and we don't get, we're not shooting people.
But you know what? You're saying it isn't the pay.
Yeah.
You or I can go out and shoot and I had this discussion with a friend. Mm-hmm. We can go out and get an assignment one evening and we'll make more than somebody who's working at McDonald's for 2 weeks.
I mean,
and I can't complain about that.
I, as a person who is lazy, as a person who,
the truth comes out.
My dream was always the idea, like, I love the idea of working my butt off for like 7 months out of the year, like working 60 hours, doing crazy amount of hours, and then just doing nothing for four or five. I love that idea. So yeah, no, I mean, I one of the reasons I think that a lot of photojournalists or photographers in general have a hard time making ends meet a lot is the fact that if you can't get a real job, you can't get a job. Like, I can't get a job working part-time at Best Buy or something like that, because on a Saturday I get an assignment, and I have to either quit my job or turn down an assignment that would pay me, what I would make at a retail job or food service, or most of these jobs that are on this list in like a month or in 2 weeks, or depending on, and so that's one of my biggest problems, is the fact that it's like, oh, I would love to get just like a part-time job to fill some of the times between assignments when I'm, especially like right now I'm working on a documentary. So it's a lot of just sitting down and writing and researching that isn't paid right now. But then that would mean that I'd have to turn down assignments. And it's just like, okay, well that wouldn't work. Making the even with minimum wage, being, I think, up to like $10 in New York now, or at least in my part of New York. It's still totally not worth it. But yeah.
Well, I will say, looking at the whole list is one, at least we are better job than newspaper reporters, and two, we're also a better job than broadcasters. So, we're only the 25th worst job. There's still 24 jobs that are above. Is that Ron?
Yes.
Can't see you, Ron.
I'm incognito, but I'm here.
Okay.
I know, I'm invisible.
Well, at least we have a better job than you. So, in your face.
I mean, this is the thing that I think that, and I think I say this probably most episodes when we talk about, having problems with our jobs. Like, they always joke to me like, oh, well, you should learn how to code. You should learn how to whatever. It's like, photojournalists know how to write for the most part. We know how to photograph. Most of us know how to do at least basic video. Most of us know how to do at least some basic editing or picture editing and also video editing. And so you start looking at these other jobs, and most of us know how to, at least to some level, with a little bit of training, know how to talk either on camera or at least in radio so we can report things. So it's just like we do a really bad job of promoting ourselves as the most versatile member of any newsroom, which is something that I think we should really start doing. And that was actually something from the Northern Shore course that a lot of people talked about, is the fact that we are actually kind of the most, should be the most important part of any newsroom, and yet we're the first people to get cut. Yeah. And part of that reason is that they're, and I ask this question to every person I know, if anyone's ever known a photographer who has moved up the editorial food chain at a publication, and I've yet to hear a single person say, "Oh yeah, no, John became the editor of the newspaper," and that's part of a problem.
Never happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and part of that's I think our fault, and part of that I think is just the fact that we're not seen as reporters a lot. We're seen as people who take images and get in people's way.
and everybody walks into Best Buy, they buy a Nikon or a camera with 2 lenses, and all of a sudden they're, like you said, putting an ad up, and they're a professional photographer.
Yeah, they set up a Facebook page, and that's it. They're done. They're in the business.
And they're cutting your price by 2/3, and the people don't realize it until they get the pictures which are out of focus.
Pretty much. Exactly. Yeah. Well, let's move on to our next topic. And Zach, you might be able to chime in on this just because you have a copyright lawyer on retainer. As came out here, there was this story a few months back about this judge who had said, "Oh yeah, this person, this website who uses a photo, it's fair use." And of course, everybody looked at this was like, "What?" a collective what? And so then, thankfully, an appeals court said, "No, it's not fair use." And so, thankfully, precedent was not changed. But that being said, obviously this has been a bit of a, just, again, more of an education, really, for the people who stole the photo, and hopefully an education for people who might steal in the future. But, any thoughts on this coming from the world of having to deal with this kind of similar instance yourself?
I mean, it's really amazing that how much of the rest of the news, and I put news in a big, quotes about like organization, blogs, and we used to call them blogs, but now are news organizations, like say something like theroot.com or something like that, where it's just like it's half opinion and half news reporting. And like the Gawker network used to be really terrible at this. They would be like, right. "Oh, you'd have reporters," and it wasn't necessarily because it wasn't the problem that they knew it and were trying to steal it. It's just they thought that, oh, we're talking about this news story and thus it's on the internet. This photo is part of that news story, and so we get to use it. And that was a justification I hear so many damn times about so many photos of mine. And I go, no, fair use is, fair use has been a kind of, I think, dramatically overexpanded over the last, 20 years or so, thanks to the internet and just kind of our general and courts understanding. Because again, one of the big problems is that most judges have no freaking clue. They don't even know where to begin on this topic. So like the previous judge, like I just remember reading in this course, in this case, it's just like, it was just, the guy doesn't understand A, what fair use is, and B, how the internet works. And how, just because it's out on the internet does not mean that suddenly I have allowed everyone to use it. Because that would basically break our economy right now. If you just said somebody uploads this thing onto the internet, it's now fair use. Oh, well, Adobe uploaded Photoshop onto the internet. I guess I can just download it and take it. I mean, I know a lot of people who think that way, but
the adventures is on the internet right now, I believe.
No, but I mean, like movies are up on the internet, or they upload clips of movies and things like that, and obviously, there's a lot of problems with copyright claims on YouTube, like being over the top, and and actual people trying to use it and review it for fair use. I do a film podcast. We just don't even bother putting clips into anything anymore, because literally the first time we did that, and when we actually were talking about how this clip was analyzing it, it was an immediate takedown notice.
Wow.
And so it was just like, oh, well, it wasn't even just, okay, well, we can't make money off of it. That's not a problem. We don't have that many people listening. But the problem is that was taken down. So
Yeah.
or it was either taken down or whited out or whatever it was.
Oh my gosh.
But anyway, that's
stealing photos is, with right-clicking images
yeah, it's just so easy.
is just so easy that even, so you'll put a watermark on it or your logo somewhere near the bottom, and they'll just recrop it and get it out.
Or it's not even, people don't even care. I don't even think people care too much. Well, one of the big problems is that I've had people before say, "Oh, well, your watermark's still on it." And I go, "Okay." It just proves to me that it's mine. And they think that, oh, since the watermark's there, or I gave you credit. I have one of the big problems where I can't tell because of the wire services. I can't tell who actually is stealing my photos and who's not, because I've seen a lot of news sites starting to do is they copy the caption with the byline credit and everything like that. So I literally don't know until I get my statement, or if I have to call up my wire service and be like, "Hey, did you sell this photo?" And it's 9 times out of 10, it's too much. It's too much work to care if it's some small site or whatever. But
one of the problems is the big services, I'm pretty sure Getty does this, is they use these tracking services.
Yeah.
And these companies will go out and report back to them usage on all the photos. And the problem comes if you're Mr. Joe Blow and you put it up on your Facebook page and they report it to them, how much money are they going to be willing to spend to go after a guy who's making $10,000 a year, to collect the usage on your photo? It's just not going to happen.
And obviously, if he's making that much a year, he's probably a photographer. So
there you go.
And
he has one of the worst jobs in the country.
That's right. Or a taxi driver.
Or maybe they're a broadcaster and they have an even worse job.
Man.
But that's this is, thank Lord that this has at least been this has been certified. It's in a federal court that fair use, that any photo can't be used for fair use, and that it has to be just at least be discussed. You can't just reuse it or something like that. Because
you saw what happened with China, didn't you? With the photograph of the black hole.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Where their largest company, which does, they call it the I forgot the name of the company, but they're like a stock photo company.
Oh, dear
well, they
God.
decided to start selling this photo, and they said it was their copyright.
Oh my God.
Not even you. You can get photos you can get like NASA photos from like Getty or AP that's usually distributed on their wire, but you can't. You can't. Yeah, you can't claim that it's your copyright that NASA.
Yeah, this Chinese company copyrighted it.
Which is ironic considering, China is so fantastic on copyright and intellectual property. So,
Well, what happens too is these agencies, what they'll do is they'll take public domain imagery, like for instance, the military, right? The military shoots all this free imagery and they put it on dividshub.net, DVIDSHUB.net. Go there for all your great imagery stuff. Do not go and get military imagery from the agencies, because all they're doing is taking that imagery from the public domain and then putting it on their sites. And really, I think that kind of rolls into our last topic this evening, which again is about imagery and public domain and using public domain. And this is kind of what scares me as well, is because it's like, I've shot imagery for the military and it's on the public domain, and then I use it for my website or something like that. Am I going to get some sort of copyright strike or some sort of DMC takedown notice from Getty or Reuters or whoever? Because Alameda uses a lot of military imagery, because again, they're taking my stuff and then claiming it's copywritten. And so anyways, in this last article we're talking about tonight, essentially Emilio Estevez uses public domain footage in his film, and then Universal Studios forces the original public domain footage offline. Oh my goodness.
Yep.
And I don't think this is necessarily a condition of the issue of DMCA takedown notices. I think it's more an issue of the automated systems by which YouTube and other platforms have been forced really to now attack video in terms of copyright usage. And Zach, you were talking about your movie podcast.
Bless you.
and hit for the same thing. So, Ron, are you still there? No. Okay.
Yes, sir. Still here, sir.
Never know if you're there or not.
It's a safe. Yes, sir.
I just thought I'd throw it to you, man. Throw it to you. Any thoughts on this in this topic?
Yeah, par for the course. That's my thoughts. This is the case, like what you were saying with your military imagery.
Yeah.
That somebody's going to take your military imagery and then resell it. That's bad enough.
Yeah.
And then imagine that your original gets taken down because, oh no, we own the copyright to this because, as you see, we've been selling it.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, it'd be interesting to find out whether, just this is off topic kind of on topic, but whether they just redistribute it or whether they sell it. And because that they agencies will redistribute handed out photos. I forget what the actual term is or whatever. Often from the military, from government, from the White House, whatever. And usually it's just credited via the agency that they got it from, because if you have a subscription or you have whatever, you'll take those images down. But we have seen lots of things with the military photos being reused in other ways. I forget, we covered something a couple years ago, I think a year or two ago or something like that, where wasn't it used in a commercial or something? But
I don't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember. But this is continually a problem with this is almost more a bigger problem with the fact that all of our video is run through this one site that has on about 100 different levels proven itself incapable or unwilling to deal with the problems of the website. YouTube, which makes billions of dollars, whether or not I know it has a revenue of 12 billion or something like that, and I don't know whether that means it makes money or not.
From what I've heard about YouTube is actually it's a loss leader for Google. They keep it around because it's so popular, but it actually loses them money.
I just read a very interesting article about I think it was the Sunday New York Times last week about the woman that runs it, and which I recommend checking out. I think it was in the New York Times, but it just said revenue of $12 billion, and I hear the loss leader too, but I also think that their claims of it being a loss leader could also potentially be a way of getting away from the idea that we should pay people for their content that they're uploading. Yeah. Which is something that they all these places love to do. Sorry.
I find it hard to believe with a revenue of 12 billion that they're losing money.
It's the servers and the sort of thing is problematic just because they're for every viral clip that is able to be able to generate ads attached to it. There's probably 1,000 hours uploaded of just people,
garbage.
Yeah, exactly. People and their cats, or actually that would be very popular and be.
Those are the ones that sell.
Yeah, but there's things like that. But the thing is that they don't have a huge employee base. It's a lot like Facebook, where only recently have they started actually hiring people to analyze things, and that these copyright trolls and the automated bots that go through and just hit anything that sounds like anything. I know that just recently there was a video game that has, I guess, music within it, and all the game player, there's these videos that people upload of them playing video games and they put them on YouTube. All of those have started being taken down because Jimmy Fallon did a video that has that music in it. And so literally Jimmy Fallon used music from a video game, and NBC is taking down other people's videos from that actual video game. And so the entire system is completely broken. And so, honestly, I started moving a lot more of my stuff over to Vimeo a long time ago because unfortunately, they don't really take down much of anything unless you directly, go through it. But as a person who's gone through the copyright claim itself, for small creators, it's insane. It's people will steal video that I have and reuse it, or images that I've taken, and it's this ridiculously long copyright thing. They threaten you continually that if you're not using, that your account might be taken down. and the problems that Universal Studios doesn't have to go through. And I've only 1 out of like 10 actually get taken down. Like I have people that have actually uploaded my entire documentary that I produced, and only 1 out of 3 of those claims have ever actually been taken down, and no reason given why it hasn't.
Well,
like,
I know a copyright attorney in Miami, and I had some people using some of my photos. He contacted them and he said, "You don't want to even go do this." He said it's going to cost you 10 times what I'll ever collect.
Yeah.
Which was good advice.
Yeah, I have a copyright attorney as well out of New York, and it's unfortunate. I mean, it makes sense that he takes 50% of whatever I get. That's the only money he charges, which is great for me because I know I'll never go through the copyright things myself. And the
50% of something is better than.
Oh well, no. I mean, my problem is I have a hard time going through the legal procedure that you can actually demand. Be like, I've gotten The Guardian stole one of my photos once accidentally, supposedly, and I got $350 from them.
Wow.
Yeah, and they were super apologetic, and I'm like, damn, I probably could have asked for a hell of a lot more. But I know that my copyright attorney probably would have gotten quite a bit more.
Isn't it what, $250,000 per use of a copyrighted image?
That's you send that, and then you negotiate down, back and forth, and that sort of thing. I mean, most claims are nowhere in that ballpark in any way, shape, and form.
Yeah.
You're talking about a couple $1,000s for ones that a copyright attorney will actually go after. If you're going to deal with stuff yourself, it's going to be less than that often.
Well, that's like that Che Guevara photo.
Yeah.
The photographer didn't make a penny. It's used everywhere in the world, and he's never seen a penny.
It's sad. Yeah.
Well, it's like that what Never Give You Up guy, the artist, who created that song, and how that was played on YouTube a billion times, and he got $12 for that or something like that.
But that's one of the big problems with YouTube as well, is that once these things become parodies and just so unbelievably used across the board, Rick Astley, was it? I forget.
Rick Astley, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, his music, it's everywhere, and that man should be a damn billionaire. But how YouTube would end up taking down probably half of their site. I mean,
well, it's been a few years. It's passe by now.
I mean, but it's still up there. I mean, all that stuff is up there, and the only thing that they do now is that if they have music in there and there's not an active copyright claim, they add a little. You can buy this song on iTunes, and so iTunes get all their money, or you can buy it on Google Play. So Google still gets their 50% or probably 70% of the music track on the sale. So they're still making out great.
Just watch the presidential candidates in the next year, and you'll see the music that they'll use, and the artist telling him to take it down, and they won't.
Yeah. No, Trump has had almost every single person that he has on his track has told him to take it down, and
I didn't want to mention the name.
I do. No, I just literally heard a story about he spoke at a anti-drug summit or something like that. And he played "You Can't Always Get What You Want," which is mostly about drugs.
Is it?
So,
wow.
Yeah. Well, I forget. There's a couple lines in it that are directly about buying drugs or something. So I can't remember all the lyrics. I should know them by now. I've heard that song so many times at Trump rallies.
So Zach's advocating for the end of YouTube. Got it. All right.
I'm totally. Hey, I believe I've advocated for the end of the internet before. I think that the world would be a better place if the internet didn't exist.
Yeah.
So
I say we go back to film.
Totally. You realize? No, I mean that's actually something that I always joke about. Is just there's the people in our industry that we know how to use film. We know how to take photos. And so that used to be a thing. That used to be the preventative from the the people walking along the sideline, just cramming up the place along the football sidelines. If you were shooting film and you're shooting at that level, shooting where you have to shoot a moving object, a moving person.
I'll give you a very quick, funny story. Do we have the time?
Of course. For you,
Of course.
anything.
Yeah. My first aerial photography was over a football stadium at the University of Missouri back in late 60s, 1970, and I was shooting with a 4x5 camera.
Oh, my God.
So I was a kid too, sitting in the back seat, and I would pull the slide out. There was no door on the plane, and I was carefully handing the slide back to him, taking the picture, and then he would hand the slide, and I would turn the pack around, pull the next slide out, and just hoping that nothing fell out of the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kill someone from up there.
Yeah, with that height.
All right. Awesome. It sounds like a fun time. Well, that's going
Now
to...
that's done by a drone.
Yeah, exactly.
Which you can't take over people anyway.
Yeah, I know, right? Zach is bemoaning the he'll never get the opportunity to get into a helicopter and take photos anymore because, of course, drones are a thing. Someday, Zach. Someday. Just, Anyways.
That's why I got into this industry.
Come to Florida.
I hear you can actually charter. I hear you can actually charter a helicopter for like $100. So, in New York City.
I said, come down to Miami. I'll put you in an R-22.
Okay.
There you go. All right, Zach, we'll hold you to that.
I actually will be down there early next year again, at least, if not earlier. Obviously, it's campaign, but also
For campaign. Maybe I'll run into you. I'll probably be covering Joe Biden some.
Well, then if you're up in Pennsylvania, I'll most certainly, where he'll probably be campaigning a ton. Yeah, no.
Just don't run into him in the helicopter, okay? That would be bad. Before we let you go, Joel, what would you like to promote before before we sign you off? Anything?
Absolutely nothing.
Okay. Not even your own website.
No, because I haven't redone it in 20 years.
Yeah, I was looking at that. I was gonna say when we were talking about like putting images on the internet and watermarks, you don't have to worry about that because all your images are like
15 years old.
Yeah, well, they're that, and they're like tiny, like little thumbs postage stamp size images. I was like trying to use one.
When I did that, I actually did the HTML code myself.
Wow.
So
fancy.
I actually am right now. I'm looking at some of the templates and planning to upgrade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Quick question: Do you have your film, or does the agencies have it?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
From way back?
Yeah.
I wasn't working with any agencies then, so I have all my own film.
Oh wow. Yeah. Gotta get it. You gotta.
Unfortunately, I lost. I guess it was with Andrew. I lost. Our storage room got hit. I lost a lot of photos I had of Joplin and Hendrix and.
Oh God.
Bunch of old film that I would love to have right now.
Yeah, most certainly. I mean that alone, that stuff would
pay.
Yeah, you gotta get up on it's not Squarespace. What is it? I don't know. I'm on Zenfolio, but there's a better one. I'm blanking on the name, but yeah. So people
I've been looking at all those to make a decision.
Yeah.
All right. Well, all right then, Zach. Anything to throw out before we sign off this evening?
Go to our Patreon. You subscribe for $1 a month. And or more. Obviously, more is more welcome. But you can get early access to a lot of content. I just finally uploaded a great interview with Ben Chesterton of Duck Rabbit Productions, talking about world pressed finalist photographer who has a lot of controversy and issues, and in general just about the larger kind of problematic nature of award photos, the photos that people go to India and take pictures of victimized people and then kind of literally produce award-winning images, not for any news necessarily, but just for that kind of nature, and upload them to their Instagram and do things like hashtag poverty, hashtag whatever. And I think it's 40 minutes of us chatting about these problems and talking about it. It's not just Steve McCurry photo editing photos. It's a much larger problem, especially as more people are able to just cheaply get places with digital cameras and take photos, and then like actual news images aren't winning our news awards. It's a lot of times these kind of anyway, but listen to the podcast. You can so go to patreon.com/ATL podcast, right?
I think so.
I think it's ATL podcast, yeah.
If not,
and when I redo my website, I'll send you a link, David.
Okay, yes. Great. Well, we'll add it to the show notes. We'll be patiently waiting. Or maybe we'll do an article specifically about your new website.
After 25 years, right?
Well, if you gotta get that stuff scanned and get some of that stuff. Not only just in case there's probably going to be another hurricane. I've also heard that Miami might go into the water in the next 5 years. So I would get that stuff up in the cloud.
Yeah,
indeed.
Well, let me just say I enjoyed this.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad. You're always welcome back, Joel. Always happy to have you on. If you got something going on, please let us know. We'd be happy to have you here. For all our listening audience, viewing audience, please go to aroundthelens.com to find out all the links that we talked about on tonight's show, see the show notes, and also find links to all the social media and our Patreon page. We always love people to go check that out. If you can't contribute any money to the Patreon, that's fine. Maybe tell a friend about the show. We truly appreciate it. If all of you told one person about the show, we double our audience. Wouldn't that be nice? Anyways, that's been our episode this night. Like I said, on Patreon, or I put some videos checking out the Rode Wireless Go mic, and also I got the camera bag. Let's see, do I have it in here? Yep. It's full of my camera equipment, but here's the bag. This is the Photocross 15 from Mindshift. I will be reviewing this in the next few weeks. So, like I said, that'll show up first on Patreon, then the rest of you all get to see it when I eventually release it to the larger internet. But anyways, that's been our show this week. I want to thank our guest, Joel Auerbach, for being an awesome panelist. Joel, thank you so much for being on the show. I truly appreciate it.
Thank you for inviting me.
Anyways, for Zach Roberts, I am David J. Murphy. This has been Around the Lens, episode 172. And two. And we are out. Thanks for tuning into Around the Lens. We hope you enjoyed the show and hope you'll join us next week. In the meantime, go to aroundthelens.com for show notes from tonight's episode, as well as links to our Patreon, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram pages. We're also always looking for new and exciting guests to feature on each show. So if you know somebody who might be interested, let them know.